This video content is strictly for educational purposes only. All demonstrations, techniques, and information provided in this video are meant to help you understand cybersecurity better. We strongly advise against using any of this information for illegal activities or unethical practices. Please like, subscribe, and comment.
All right, welcome. We're back again with another video for hands-on labs. We're going to do SQL injection, also known as SQLi. For you that are unfamiliar with it, that's search query language injection attack. And this attack is usually utilized against a database that isn't properly secured. We can defend against such attacks, which we'll go towards the end of the video, and we'll talk about that. As always, these types of labs are for educational purposes only. We're doing it in our own environment, which gives us both the authority, because we own the devices, and then we're giving ourselves permission, which makes it ethical and legal. Please don't try to do this type of attack on the open web. You're just going to get yourself in trouble, and that's not what we're here for, right? We're here to learn the offensive side of security so that we can better prepare ourselves to defend against these types of attacks. And so what do we need for this lab? Well, we need a Kali box, right? Obviously, that's what we have on the screen. And then we need this box right here. This is a Keyoptrix Level 2 hacked box by Red Hat. They put out some great boxes. You can find this either on VulnHub, which I will provide the link below, or you can get it off of my Google Drive, which again, I will provide that link in the description as well. Well, we have it here. Let's get started right off the bat. And for beginners, we need to find the machine. So in order to do that, we're just going to open up our terminal. I want to point out that I'm in a sandboxed environment on this Kali box. So that means that there's literally no access to the internet. This better protects ourselves and our systems. And then we make sure we're not accidentally doing something illegal, right? And that's what we really want. So I'm just going to type in nmap. I'm going to do a switch SN. Well, actually, let's do an ifconfig first, because we want to know what network we're on. I'm on the 192 network right here. So that's 192.168.56.101. And before I get too far along, I want to show my settings, right? So I have Keyoptrix 2 running, and I have two versions of Kali. My Kali on the background, this one has internet. That one is running some programs in the background as I prepare for another lab. It has to update. This one is a clone. This one, if I go down to network, it's on host-only adapter, which means it doesn't have access to the network, and that's important. I want to point out host-only adapter does not have access to the network. If I go to my Keyoptrix Level 2, it must match. It must match. So it's on host-only adapter as well. If you don't have your system set up appropriately, it won't work. And I think I may have just realized that I made a mistake, because I have two host-only adapters, and this one's set up as adapter number 2, and I think this one's set up for adapter number 1. I think I was doing a lab the other day. It is. Look at that. So right off the bat, that's why we check. I made a mistake. That's no big deal. Let's shut down our Keyoptrix 2, just like that, and then we'll change the settings. To do that, I'm just going to go into settings. I'm going to go to network and see where it says host-only adapter. I can click on that. I want it to stay host-only, but I want the first one, not the second one. You probably don't have a second one unless you intentionally went out there and did it. I just press OK, and then I like to double check it. If I look at network right here, it tells me right there that I've got it. All right, we'll reboot this sucker up. And then we'll should be able to see it. It would have sucked, right? I would have gone in and I would have done an nmap, and I wouldn't have been able to find it. And then I would have had to re-record the video because I would look like an idiot, and that would have sucked, right? Yes, I make mistakes all the time, believe it or not. I feel like my students, a lot of time, I want to point this out, right? We learn from our mistakes. Trust me, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, probably more than I care to imagine, right? And it's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of learning process. Let's just tamper those mistakes by understanding that those mistakes should not be illegal or unethical in nature, right? So I've got this little box. I'm just going to hit the button. I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to do nothing. And I'm going to do nothing. And it should boot up. And we won't have any problems with it whatsoever. All right, Keyoptrix 2 is up and going the right way now. Let's jump into our Kali box. All right, we're on 192.168.56.101. So we're going to do an nmap. Switch SN or TAC SN, if you want to call it that way. We're going to do 192.168.56.0 with a /24. This is that CIDR that's going to search that last octet right there, that 0. It's going to look from 0 to 255 to try and find where that IP address is. We're going to hit enter and let it do its thing. Now, because I only have 2 boxes running on this, I should only have like 2 or 3 IP addresses. Usually the first IP address that it finds is for VirtualBox itself. and then it finds the Kali box, which is 101. And my guess is Keyoptrix 2 is probably running on 102 or 102 through 110. It's going to be one of those IP addresses, right? So here we go. We have it on 104. And you can probably see that I had named this for our Wireshark lab, which is in there, right? So that's 104, and we are good to go. And so we found it at 104. All right, next thing to do is we're going to open up our handy dandy item right here. Now, I've got mine set up to automatically find it based on a web domain, but you may not have that. So we're going to use the IP address, and I'm just literally going to do 192.168.56.104. We're going to jump into that, and this is the login screen that the Keyoptrix 2 box gives us. Now, if I type in, say, admin and password right here, and I hit login, it's going to kick it out. It's going to say, nope, I don't understand you. And, you know, you could try and brute force this. You can go in. We can try different passwords. I'm just going to try, I don't know, we'll try admin again, because why not, right? And you can see that it's not letting me in. All right, so we are going to do today an SQL injection on this vulnerable website to gain access, to bypass the login. And that's what we're doing today, all right? Now, to bypass the website, or the login, I should say, we need to utilize a tool. And the tool we're going to utilize for this is actually Burp Suite. Now, Burp Suite is a web application tool that allows us not only to find vulnerabilities, but actually to pen test those vulnerabilities. You don't need the paid version. Please don't spend any money. We're going to use the free version, the community edition for this, right? So the first thing we have to do is actually set up our web interface in order to facilitate that type of tool. So I'm going to go to the very top right-hand side, and you see those three little lines right there. We're going to click on that. We're going to drop down to settings right there. Once we get to settings, we're going to type in proxy. From proxy, you'll see network settings, configure how Firefox connects to the internet. We're going to hit settings right there. And you can see that you got use system proxy settings. And we utilize that if we want to get online. However, we don't want it to do that. We want it to go back to our actual machine because Burp Suite is going to hit that website. And when we hit that website, we actually want to grab some of the information associated with it, right? And that's our goal. So we're going to do an HTTP proxy, and we're going to set it for 127.0.0.1. For those that remember, that is our loopback address for our machine. And then our port number, we're going to keep that at 8080. So we're going to hit OK, and then we're done with the settings. Now, here's fair warning. If you want to hit the internet again at any time, you need to change it back. And don't worry, we're going to do that in the video. So if you're following along, we'll change it back in the process so that you don't forget. Once we've done that, and we've changed that setting, we're actually going to open up Burp Suite. Now, there's two different ways you can open up Burp Suite. The first one is you can go over here to our little Kali icon at the very top left-hand side, and then we can go to Web Application Analysis, and then Burp Suite. We can do it that way, or we can do it the better way, and that's just by typing Burp Suite, because, I mean, come on now, right? It's Linux. You have to do it in command line interface. So let's hit Burp Suite. It's going to start this sucker up for us. Once it starts up, we're going to hit next, and then we're going to start Burp. Now, this is going to take a few seconds. It always does, especially the first time you boot it up. It takes it's not a long time, but the first time you boot it up, it's probably going to take about a minute, maybe even two. After that, it gets a little bit faster, right? All right, once we get to this page, we need to go to proxy at the very top. So we have dashboard, target, and then proxy. If you're having a hard time seeing that, we're going to hit proxy right there. And then we need to go to options or proxy settings right there. In our proxy settings, we're going to verify that our interface is set at 127.0.0.1 on 8080. If it's not, you can hit that add button and add it. And there you go. So we should all be set with that. I'm going to close that out. The next thing we need to do is we need to actually go to our intercept. So we have our intercept right there. And see how it's off? We're going to click that and turn it on. It'll be highlighted blue when we turn it on. And that shows us that it's actually working the way it's supposed to. All right, last thing that we need to do, we need to go back in to our Firefox, and we're just going to type in http://burp. This is going to give us access to the Burp website. And you can see that our intercept's on, it's already picking it up, but that's not what we want. What we want is this certificate authority right here. We're going to click on that, and it's going to download. Now, I've already downloaded it once before, but I'm going to show you how it works so that you can actually utilize this tool. Once we have it downloaded, Let me close that out. It doesn't like me today. We're going to go back into our settings. Once we get into settings, we're actually going to type in cert, C-E-R-T. I'm pausing deliberately so that you can keep up. So I apologize if I'm going too slow for you. From there, we're going to hit View Certificates. And within our View Certificates, we're going to hit the Import button right here. So we're going to import a new certificate. From here, you can see that you probably have cacert.der. That's the one we want. We're going to press Open. And then since it's already installed, you'll probably have a pop-up window that asks you, if I remember correctly, open with or save file or something. You just want to go ahead and bring that in. And from there, it's going to ask you, which one do you want to do? Do you want to trust the certificate authority to identify websites? And do you want to trust the certificate authority to identify email users? We want to click both boxes and then press OK. Once you follow that along, you should be good to go. And we should have that set up. Now I can literally close that out. I can close out that one. And here's where the magic takes place. Here's where we really get to see what we're doing. We're on the website. Now we're just going to type in whatever username and password we want to utilize. So for my username, I'm going to type in admin. And then for my password, I'm just going to do 1234. That's it. 1234. Sounds good. I'm going to hit the login. And you should have Burp Suite pop open with this little version right here. This is where we're going to actually tell the tool what inputs we want to inject, right? Now you'll notice that our username is admin and our password is 1234, just like we wanted. From here, we want to right click and we're going to send this to the intruder. So send to intruder right here. Our intruder at the very top right hand side should have lit up. We've got that. And then we can see that we've got those same basic complex of what was going on within our system. I'm going to highlight admin, and I'm just going to type this add button right here. And then I'm going to do the same for password. This is telling the Burp Suite control that these are the two fields that I want to try to hijack or I want to try to inject. From there, we're going to go to our payloads. But now, in order to provide that payload list, we need a list of SQL injection attacks that we can utilize. It just so happens that I've got an entire list for you, and you can get that off my Google Drive as well. Try to make sure that you grab it beforehand. If you don't, it's okay. You can open up on your core machine, and then if you've got the copy and paste feature enabled on VirtualBox, which here, I'll show you where that is real quick. I open up VirtualBox. I've got my Kali running right here. I think I'm on the Kali clone, actually. On the Kali clone, I'm going to do settings, and then at the very top you can see advanced, so general, advanced, and you see where it's bidirectional. That's what we want. So if you've got bidirectional, you can just copy it, paste it in there. I've got it saved to my clipboard already. I'm going to hit the paste, and you can see here that it injects all those different SQL attacks that we could utilize. Now, if you're studying for Security Plus, or if you're studying for another exam, you probably are like, hey, what does an SQL injection actually look like? Because I believe on one of the questions that you might see on Security Plus, it actually goes into detail asking what type of attack it is, and it just gives you this basic format. Mostly, what an SQL injection really looks like is it's a statement, sort of like this, admin, or 1 equals 1. Well, when does 1 equal not 1? Well, it's a true statement. And so what an SQL injection is it's throwing logic at a database, and it's saying, hey, is this here? If not, then search for this true statement. And by providing that true statement, then the system's like, oh, well, admin's not in there, but the true statement, of course it's true, so that has to be okay, right? Since it's a true statement, it's logically all right. And so it literally goes in and it kind of tricks the system and the database into thinking, oh, well, admin wasn't there, this logical true statement is obviously there. So because 1 always equals 1, and so we fool the system into allowing us to gain access or entry into it. So we have our statements right there. Now we just need to start the attack. So I'm going to press the start attack button right there, and it's going to go into town. It's going to give me this little warning right here that says on the community edition. Now, as it's going through the attack, you can see that we've got these responses received, and we can see a status code and then a link associated with it. Now, this link is important because the website is going to throw off a response based on the type of SQL injection that we threw in there. So if I click on that, I can see it. So as we're looking at the request, we can see that this looks much like what we've seen before, right? It's providing us that raw request format that we already grabbed from the intercept. And if I do raw, it doesn't really look that different, and then I can see the hex. But what I'm more interested in is this response. If I click on the response, I can see how the server interacted with the input that Burp Suite put forward for our SQL injection. Now you can see the very first one, there's not even a payload attached to it. But if I click on the next one, it is a payload. And we see that --dash or hyphen or whatever you want to call it, excuse me, right? And we can see the response is a length of 860. That length tells me what kind of response the server is providing. And so I don't need to go through every last one of these. The responses is always the same with the 860. So instead of doing 860, let's click on the length, and we can see here now that we've got some 779s. Do we have anything else? And a lot of 860s, right? So these 779s, they're different than the 860s. Let's look at those. Now, if I look at that, I can see here that we're logged in as an administrator. It says, welcome to the basic administrator of web console. So we've gained access. We performed successfully a SQL injection attack against this system. So once I've figured that out, I'm going to right click and then I'm going to just request in browser. And I can do in original session or in current browser session. I'm going to do in the current browser session, and it's going to give me a little link to it right there. I'm going to copy that out. I'm going to go back up here and I'm just going to paste it into our system. Now, because I have intercept on, it's telling me, hey, this other stuff, So I need to turn my intercept off. I'm going to turn that intercept off. And then you can see as soon as I did that I bypassed the login, and now it's saying ping a machine on the network. And so I'm going to ping back into my Kali box, which is 192.168. And I believe I'm at 101 right there. And if it's successful, it's going to provide it, and I got there, right? So we have successfully conducted an SQL injection attack against the Keyoptrix 2, and we've gone through the process. Now, this box is designed to be hacked completely, gaining command line access, and I think I'll do a video on that a little bit later. So now that we've actually gone into the website, I'm going to go ahead and shut down Burp Suite, right? We're going to go into our settings. So I opened up a new Firefox. We're going to go to the very right-hand side. We're going to go all the way to settings. And if you remember correctly, we want to type in proxy, because if we don't, we'll never be able to access the web on this machine. So I'm going to use system proxy settings. I'm going to press OK. And that then is going to allow me to actually be able to access the internet after I'm done using Burp Suite. And it's an important step, because I've had many a student that have conducted a lab and then they're like, I can't get on the internet with my box. What in the world just happened? So let's make sure that we do that before we continue on. Now that we've successfully performed our injection attack, how would we defend against that type of attack in a real world scenario? Well, obviously the first part is to make sure that our code or our website is doing something called input validation. Input validation is literally taking to a form and making sure that we only allow different characters or different strings of characters to be inputted into the message. In this case, for the username and password, we wouldn't allow some special characters to be inputted into that field, and that would make it impossible for an SQL injection to actually take place. We could actually identify a lot of the SQL strings and inject that directly into our code, where we straight out just provide error detection and say, we're not going to do this. We're not going to allow a user to put in this specific code or this specific context within that field. And if we do see it, we just throw it off to the side. We don't even actually deal with it. That's the best way to deal with it. That's called input validation. The second way that we can deal with that type of code is by taking it and then using something called a web application firewall. A web application firewall scans for different vulnerabilities or different inputs into our websites or our web applications and looks for them, much like a antivirus scanner does or something else, but it's for a specific web application. Don't ask me why we call it a web application firewall, because it has nothing to do with firewalls in a traditional sense. But it does provide us a layer of protection on our web applications or our websites to stop that from happening. Modern day websites, they're constantly looking to protect against. Now, don't test this, right? Obviously, don't go out there and try to perform an injection attack against a website. you're just going to get yourself into trouble. And honestly, it's probably not going to work anyway. So remember, this video is for educational purposes only. And what we're truly trying to get out of it is for you to understand how an SQL injection attack occurs, how it's being played out, and how to protect against it. Please like, subscribe, and hit that little bell icon for more content. Thank you very much. My name is Dr. K. We'll see you next time.